You are now tuning in to the magical storytelling by Dala with I Create Stories. You can go to azbubbly.com to get plugged in and experience electrifying stories every weekend. Okay, headphones on, life off, and let's go for a ride. In the center of an orphanage called One Loving Home, Omar, an 8-year-old, excited, brown-skinned boy with a fluffy fro, sits at a table drawing in his art book. He finally sees them, a married couple and a group home counselor, approach the glass door and then enter the room. They talk amongst themselves as they observe the children. As they finish up and make their way towards the exit, Michael, a spiteful 10-year-old, strides over to Omar's table and snatches the art book, shoving it to the ground. I don't know why you're getting all excited, he sneers. Nobody wants you. They're here for me. His cold words hit Omar like rocks. Omar glared up at Michael with angry, hateful eyes. Don't worry, Mr. Buttons will come for you if you don't get a home, Michael assured him. Omar stands up when the counselor returns, ready to lash at Michael. Michael, come with me, please, the counselor said pointedly. Michael sneered back at Omar again. Bye, loser. Standing there, emotionally confused, Omar slowly reaches down to pick up his art book. That evening, Omar lies in bed, tossing and turning as he dreams. In his dream, a tall, attractive, brown-skinned woman smiles at him from afar. He runs to her with outstretched arms and calls, Mama! But she shakes her head confused and replies, I'm sorry, baby. I'm not your mom. Omar backs away slowly and the lady disappears. Still dreaming, a dark-skinned woman with short hair and distressed clothing appears in his room, standing over him. Before she could speak, a tall, mysterious figure covered in blackness sneaks up behind her and clamps his hand over her mouth to stifle her struggles as it pulls her away. Omar suddenly jumps out of a deep sleep, looking around the room, frightened and confused about what he thought he was envisioning. The bizarre episode worried him, and he couldn't go back to sleep. So he grabbed his art book and started drawing. 7 years have passed since then, and 15-year-old Omar is quietly lying in bed with his art book. But this evening, he rises to his feet fully clothed. He grabs his backpack from the floor and sneaks out the room before heading towards a nearby convenience store. When he arrives, Omar stands outside its entrance and politely requests spare change from a man who passes by. The stranger shakes his head in a negative response. Not long after, another older individual approaches the store. Still, when Omar asks him for change, he barely looks at him before going inside without replying. Then the store owner steps out. Hey, you! Hey, boy! Leave here before I call the cops! He yells. Omar starts to retreat from the scene, and a rude man approaches him, shoving his shoulder as he passes. Another man walks up and starts hollering at the first one. Omar turns back to look at both of them suspiciously. The two quickly devolve into a heated confrontation until the confronted man pulls out a gun and fires it. He shoots the man, who then crumbles to the ground and then dashes away. Omar is in shock and starts to panic. He then noticed smoke begin to cover the ground, and the scene becomes gloomy. There, amid the gloom, he sees a dark-covered entity slowly appear out of nowhere with a big, grimy black sack. Smoky mist smothers the mysterious being as it limps over to the dying body on the ground. The unidentifiable figure holds his hand over the man's chest, and an iridescent green aura radiates from his black palm. After a few seconds, it pulls back his hand, opens the bag, and drops something inside. Speechless and scared, Omar stares as the suspicious form enters the darkness and disappears. The ominous scene has now transcended outside the convenience store. Sirens and many concerned voices can be heard. Omar snaps back but is a little disoriented with the urge to flee. As Omar runs away from the scene, confusion is more prevalent than fear. He travels far enough from the convenience store and the group home he had been living at, hoping to never return. However, the night is creeping up on young Omar, who has no place to go but is determined to make it on his own. He reaches a spacious park with open benches and notices an empty bench with a nearby light pole that shines down over it. He goes over, sits, pulls out his art book, and begins to draw. However, he doesn't draw for long because the night gets louder, with dogs barking, sirens, and distant voices. Omar closes his art book and crawls underneath the bench to gather his thoughts and hopefully rest.